Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing, with your hosts Glenn Thayer and the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young.
Welcome back to another Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. Today, Tom and I are going to be talking about winning the website war. So, Tom, what is the website war?
Well, it's a great question, and actually this term, the website war, winning the website war, is a title we're considering for my new book, which is coming out this fall that we talked about in a previous podcast. But as I thought about the title of the book and I thought about just the term winning the website war, I thought, well, yeah, that's a great title, but what does it mean? And what it means is that there's two fronts that people fight website wars on. The one front that we talk about a lot here is beating your competitors. And a lot of people think, well, yeah, that's the war I'm always fighting. I want to be better than my competitors, right? But there's another war that we're fighting too, and that is getting a team of people together that can make our website successful and make it come together. So we're fighting this website war on two fronts. And the book that I'm writing on the 4-step process talks about how to win that war, how to beat your competitors, and how to assemble a team of people that can make your website really get excellent results. And so that's where that came out. So I thought we could talk a little bit about what it takes to win the website war in this podcast.
What would you say is the number one thing that people need to focus on when starting to go to battle, if you will, with their websites?
Well, it's a great question, and I think that what I recommend and what we're going to talk about in the podcast and in the book is our 4-step process. And it's the 4-step process of strategy, proper design and development, traffic generation, and then a process for monitoring results and improving results. Those 4 steps. And I think that companies that do that are going to be able to give direction to their team and win the war on that front, and then also beat their competitors, because their competitors for the most part are going to skip steps, and they're not going to have the right strategy in place. They're going to send traffic to a poorly designed website and so forth. So I would say it's the 4 steps. That's the starting point to win the war.
And if you're wondering what about those 4 steps, where you can get the information on those 4 steps, just make sure that you go back to our archived podcast, because we have a couple of those that go through that 4-step process. So you definitely check that out. Well, let's go back into, from an infrastructure standpoint, Tom, how should a person build the web marketing team? Now, this is probably on 2 different fronts. You can do it, obviously. Let's talk to 2 different types of businesses here. One that would have an internal web marketing team as part of their marketing department, and then another person who might be a solo entrepreneur who's trying to do it on their own and maybe looking at some outsourcing for their talent for their web marketing team. Let's look at the 2 of those.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that when it comes to the web marketing team, we have a lot of content. We've done podcasts on the web marketing team, and there's also a lot of content on our blog on web marketing teams. But for the most part, what is more strategic to your business should be handled internally. What is less strategic and necessary for your business should be more externally. And so as you build a web marketing team, the strategy comes first internally. And then the other part that is more internal is project management. And then what you'll find is that the skill sets that you need should be mostly external, unless you're to the point where you can bring in what we would call an internet marketing manager. And this is a person that would be responsible for things like search engine optimization, Google Analytics, and making sure that the website's getting traffic and so forth. If you want to grow to the point where you have an internal team, that's the person to start with. The things that are mostly going to be external are going to be things like your website development team, your video production team, your photographer. A person on the team is going to be content, because whoever is writing content will probably be external, but they're going to need direction from the internal team, from the strategy side. So there's kind of an art to building this web marketing team and make it work. And in our podcast, we talk quite a bit about that when we talk about the web marketing team. One of the things to watch out for is people that claim to have multiple talents. For example, someone that says to you, yeah, I'm a developer and I can code, but I'm also a designer. I can design too. Well, those kinds of skill sets are very hard to find and usually don't exist. Somebody who says, yeah, I can take videos for your website, and I can also write content for you. I'll do both those things. Well, no, that's probably not going to happen. So as you start to develop a team, you'll realize there's all these different skill sets that have to come together. And if you focus on strategy, project management, internal, and then when you're ready, internet marketing manager, then I think you'll be able to build this team. And you'll fight fewer battles if you just keep people in their skill set. And in some ways, the challenge is going to be determining, what is their skill set? And you may not be able to determine that until you see them do work. If they say they're a designer, then take a look at their design and see what you think. They may really be a developer or vice versa.
And this is something really important to take a look at too, and this is where that internet marketing manager becomes really, really important. You also need the buy-in of anybody who's responsible for signing off on a website, whether it be the CMO or if it's the CEO, depending on who it is. That internet marketing manager really needs to have the authority to be able to bring that team together, because how many websites have we seen designed by a developer, or how many websites have we seen developed by a designer? You can always tell, because if a site looks awesome and it looks great, but the functionality is terrible or it's really hard to understand, it's because the user interface hasn't been designed properly. And that becomes that's a developer issue. Mm-hmm. And so you go to the developer side, and if you have a developer that has built a website, they usually look terrible. They're functional, but they look terrible.
That's right.
And it's really having that blend of both, and having that internet marketing manager is the person to say, okay, let's bridge the gap between functionality and design, and then be able to do all the user testing with it.
It's a great point, and if you struggle with this and you try to say, well, how can I figure all this out? Go back to the 4 steps and think about strategy first. So who are the key team members that you want involved in the strategy of your website? Like, for example, why do we have a website? What kind of return do we want to see from that website? How are we going to grow our business with the website? Who is the strategic players in that? Then the design and development portion, which is step 2. Who's going to help us with the design, the graphic artistic view? Who's going to help us with the development, the coding? How are we going to pick the right CMS system? If you can start thinking about your site in these 4 steps, that's really helpful. And then step 3, which is traffic generation. And traffic generation becomes so important and so ongoing that's where you might think about an internal person that can help with SEO, that can help with content, that can help with blog posting, that can help with driving traffic to the site. And then, of course, step 4, which may be the most important of all, that's the idea of watching all this, staying on top of your Google Analytics, staying on top of the website updates, because your website's never completed. It's constantly needing to be updated, and making sure the website's producing the ROI and return that you want. If you wing it, if you just go at it and say, so-and-so had a good idea, let's follow that, that's where you get into the website war. That's where you get into the battles, and that's where you see problems occur. So a process and a structure helps you win the website war, and that's what the book is going to be about: is how you define that process and structure and how you implement it.
Now, how important is Google these days?
That's a great question, and Google is still the master of the universe when it comes to internet marketing. And so, if you want to win the website war, and if you want to implement these 4 steps, you have to understand what's important to Google. A lot of people get caught up on the ins and outs of Google. Well, how do I make it work? How do I get listed in Google search results? I think it's important to back up from that and think about the strategy that Google has for business. What is Google's business model? And it's important to know that there's a handful of things that are very important to Google. One is they really want to change the world as far as technology goes. They're building a driverless car. They're building, computers that you can wear on your face, as in the form of glasses and things like that. So they want to change the world technology-wise. It's real important to know that they're much more than a search engine. They also have a huge priority in getting rid of spam or illicit websites. And so they do a lot of things just around spam prevention that you need to be aware of. They also are very much into organic search results based on how often is your website updated, how current is your content, and how relevant is your content to that search.
And I think it's even going even more now these days as far as relevancy to content and having good content, not just putting content like here's a link to another website. Like they're really trying to get rid of link farms, if you will, like going to a website that has 10,000 links, and then you go from that website and it clicks it to another link because it's a website that was set up just for ad revenue.
Absolutely. Google has made a huge change in the relevancy they give to links coming to your site. It's still important, but not nearly as important as it used to be. Content is what's important.
And there's so much power in that content, Tom.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's really, that's what has been happening lately online, is most people are getting their inbound marketing and inbound sales calls are coming from their content marketing efforts, coming from the blogs, coming from what people have posted in social media, whether it's utilizing Twitter, utilizing LinkedIn groups, utilizing all of that to showcase their product, their business,
Absolutely.
Showcasing them as thought leaders and experts in the field and the go-to people online.
Absolutely. And what Google is doing right now is, in fact, we're using Google Plus for this podcast and for the video. And Google Plus right now is the social media network for Google. Now, they could change that overnight, and they do. They do change things overnight. So, we'll log into Google Analytics and see a completely different interface than was there yesterday. Same with AdWords. So Google Plus could one day just disappear or become something completely different. But for now, Google Plus is their content distribution source and their resource for getting people together. I think what Google's finding is that Google Plus is taking a whole different nature behind it. It's not becoming the social media network that they hoped it would be, like Facebook. It's becoming more a way for more high-end users like we are to use the free tools and use Google Plus as an interface. But it's an important thing for Google, and you've got to know about those things, because the last thing you want to do is not understand Google and then make mistakes in this whole effort you have behind website marketing because you don't understand where Google is going. And the one final thing I want to say about Google and where they're going is that local is huge for them. They understand the power of the mobile web, and they want to know that when you go to your phone and you're looking something up in Google, they want to know where you are, where you're located, what's located around you, and then they want to make sure that advertisers in their network show up on your phone. I think that's a big thing for Google Plus, and of course we've talked about AdWords and how important AdWords is. All of these things relate together and are key drivers for Google, which are key drivers for content marketing and inbound marketing, which is also something you need to understand the power of these things, because that's what it's going to take to win the website war in the future.
So, one of the other things that I want to point out too is the way social media is working these days and the way online interactions are working is get out and play. I mean, if you go, okay, Google Plus and Hangouts, what is it? Play with it. Put one on your website. Play with it on your YouTube channel. Customers and clients will look at that and go, oh, they're playing. They're trying something new. And they get to see a real person kind of fumbling around with things. I hate to say it, but the truth of the matter is those little YouTube videos that people are taking on their phone, like, hey, we're going to go behind the scenes at the office. They have their phone out and they say, we're going to go behind the scenes at the office today. Let's go look around and see what's going on. And they take a little tour of the office that might be 30 seconds with their cell phone, not produced at all. It's put on YouTube, but now it's linked up and they go, oh, wait, there's real people at that business. And it really elevates. It's like, oh, and this complements your professionally produced videos that you're doing or professionally produced marketing. It's just something else to say, hey, look, we're real people. We like to have a good time and have fun, and we make mistakes. We're not totally perfect.
Right, and Google owns YouTube, and Google owns the Google Hangouts that we're using right here. So they're encouraging you to do that. They want to see more media and more content distributed, and then they can index it in search, and they can bring more people to you. I think what Google has to figure out is how to monetize that, because you can't just completely throw ads all the time at Google Plus subscribers or users. But to win the website war, I think what I really want to leave you with is the idea of have a process that starts with strategy, and then don't wing it. Don't wing it with your team as you build your team, and don't wing it with your processes as you start marketing online.
So, Tom, what are the action steps that our listeners and viewers need to pay attention to for this podcast?
Well, I think that an important one would be to keep a lookout for our new book coming out, which we might be titling "Winning the Website War." We'll see, but it's basically on the 4-step process, and you can go to our website right now and get this information as well. But follow the 4-step process and write a marketing plan based on those 4 steps, and then with that, then develop guidelines for your web marketing team within each step and align your web marketing team's skills with the action items that need to get accomplished. One thing, too, that I want to mention is, and you always want to do this in fighting website wars, is talk to your target market. Get feedback from your target market about how you should market online, what they're expecting. And then finally, the last thing to do is to realize that to win the website war, you have to be educated on what's going on out there. You don't have to be educated to the level that Glenn and I are and what we do, but you definitely need to be on top of what is important to Google and what's happening, what's current in web marketing and social media and so forth.
Well, wonderful, folks. Now you have it. You've got some action items to work on, some things to work out. Thanks so much for joining us again for the Internet Marketing Podcast here at Intuitive Websites. And remember, if there is something that you would like us to cover, some topic, make sure you shoot us an email at info@intuitivewebsites.com, and we'll be sure to get it into one of our programs. Thanks so much for joining us.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com. If you have a website you'd like us to review or an issue you would like to see covered in future podcasts, email us at info@intuitivewebsites.com.